Hey guys, Marstingan here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and today we are doing the team building guide for the Super Saiyans stage of Super Battle Road. As always, we will be going over my top picks as well as some honourable mentions, and as always, again, any units you feel like we didn't talk about enough or that I may have missed, let me know down below in the comment section and we can further discuss down there. So we're now getting into the territory, because this is the 9th out of the 10 videos. There's a lot of units that we have talked about already. Obviously, if you're only watching this specific guide to do this specific stage, then you will have missed some of those details, but I'm trying not to talk about the same units over and over again, so I will cover any of those units at the end that we don't specifically talk about in this video. So starting off, we obviously have the main summonable Dokkan Fest leader for the category, which is the Namek Goku. He's pretty good. I haven't used him a huge amount in Super Battle Road, to be honest, because, you know, we didn't have this stage, we didn't have the Goku family stage, but he's pretty solid. He starts off with 77% attack and defense. He raises it slightly each time that he's attacked, up to 59%, so obviously you need to get hit 4 times for that to be fully maxed out. He does immense damage, raises allies attack by 30% when he supers, which is pretty good if you're using him like in slot 1. And then he can transform when HP is 70% or less, starting from the 3rd turn, which is good, because in Super Battle Road, it's very easy to get to turn 3 and be below 70% HP. So then, of course, he transforms into Super Saiyan Goku, and then, once transformed, he infinitely raises defense on super attack. Once he's been hit once, he gets an attack boost for the rest of the fight. He has a medium chance to guard, and then guard activated against all attacks, and a high chance of performing a crit for 3 turns when guard is activated. So essentially, the first time he gets hit and this 25% chance to guard goes off, he then guards all of the rest of the attacks and has a high chance to crit for 3 turns. So he is really good. Like, I don't think he's the best unit on the team by any stretch, but considering he's the main leader that you're going to be bringing, he's actually really good. And depending on when you transform, if you make it to turn 5 and you have 50% or less HP, you can go into the Rage mode, which, just like the Giant Ape kind of thing, it just gives you 1 free turn of damage where you can't take damage. He also randomly changes orbs to Rainbow, so it makes it a little bit easier for him to super, because obviously when you go into these kind of modes, you don't get any links, so you will have to just be picking up 6 ki every time. So the fact that he creates rainbow orbs obviously helps connect all of that together and make it a little bit easier for him to super attack. So this mode is obviously going to be very useful, because you're getting a whole turn of free damage if you're able to get this to activate. So the other summonable leader is, of course, the LR, Spirit Bomb Absorbed Goku, or Gumku as we affectionately name him for that terrifying super attack screenshot. But he gives 130 to stats, but then gives 4 ki, so obviously slightly lower stats overall, but more ki, which will benefit you if you are bringing a lot of LRs. I think we talked about him in Movie Heroes, but he raises defense on his 12 ki super, so in a lot of situations it can sometimes be better on Super Battle Road to just deliberately get his 12 ki super so that he raises his defense. The flip side of that, of course, is if he's only being attacked by one person in that turn, he does lower attack and seal on his 18 ki super. So you can kind of work around taking tons of damage that way as well. But if he's being attacked by multiple enemies, I think the 12 ki super is your best bet. Now, sometimes that can be difficult, because he does create rainbow orbs and get 2 extra ki per rainbow orb. So I've definitely had situations come up where it's just impossible to get his 12 ki super, which normally you'd think was a good thing, but if you're in a situation where you really want to get that raises defense, then sometimes it is not possible. And then, of course, he does get a little bit of an attack boost per Super Saiyan category ally in the same turn, which of course for this stage is going to be everyone. So he's pretty solid overall. Even if you're running the Namek Goku as a leader, he definitely is a good choice to bring on the team. And then, of course, he is the next best leader. Now, when we look at the actual category, there are no other units that specifically have that leader skill. So you'd have to factor in other potential things, like, for example, running Gohan and running a full Kamehameha team made up only of Super Saiyans. Same with Goku family / siblings bond. Majin Buu saga. Like, there's a lot of ways you can work around it because it's quite restrictive in terms of the actual category leaders. So moving on to some of the other units, obviously we talked about this guy just then for a brief second. I believe it's possible to make a full Majin Buu Saga / Battle of Wits team of Super Saiyans, and obviously this unit is incredibly good. Like, they were always going to be on this list. They have built-in damage reduction. Like, even on Extreme Super Battle Road with no items active, these guys tank incredibly well. And then, of course, as we all know, once they transform into Vegito, potentially on turn 4, which on, again, Super Battle Road is the best possible place to be getting these HP restrictive active skills, because you take so much damage generally. And then, of course, once he transforms into Vegito, not only do you get a nice little heal for free, he then starts dishing out even more ridiculous amounts of damage, as well as countering. And one of the most powerful mechanics for Super Battle Road, he foresees enemy super attacks for 10 turns, which is basically, if you get him to transform on turn 4, this passive is going to last you for the whole of the rest of the fight, because I don't think I've ever seen a Super Battle Road run get to turn 14 unless you are, I guess, using like a full free-to-play team or like a stall stun team or something. So this means you can see where the super attacks are for the whole of the rest of the fight, which is going to make it so much easier, because the stray super attacks are the biggest bane of any Super Battle Road run. So this guy is probably a must include on the team if you have him. So moving on, we then have the other version of Goku and Vegeta / Vegito, the Int one. He's been around for quite a long time, so hopefully you guys have him, maybe with some dupe investment. He's a unit that on Super Battle Road you might not see him transform, because you do need to get to turn 6 and be below 50% HP. But if you do, you get a full free heal, and then he becomes Vegito, and the Int LR Vegito is insane. Like, takes barely any damage, does ridiculous amounts of damage with his counter attacks, does tons of damage with his super as well. But a lot of the time you probably are only going to have them in this form. But even in this form, they have really solid attack and defense on top of really good stats. They get extra key per rainbow orb, so it's not super hard to get their 18 key super. And so they are able to dish out a ton of damage, as well as having very good links. Obviously the rotation of these two together is incredibly powerful on any team that you can run them both on. So then, of course, I thought I'd include an extreme unit, because remember, we are Super Saiyans. There's no super types only restriction here. So I thought I'd include Tech Broly. Now, he's not going to link up the best with the rest of the units on the team, because he does have like extreme. Actually, I guess none of his links are really only extreme type, are they? Berserker, I guess, kind of is, but you don't really ever see that active anyway. So actually, his link set's perfectly fine. He does need to super attack before he gets his defense, so he can definitely take damage before he supers. But when you're fighting multiple opponents, you get a guaranteed additional super. So if you have dupes in this guy, you can potentially super attack 3 times. And then turn 4, which is not difficult to get to, he transforms. He can use his active skill straight away for a guaranteed 24 key super with a massive attack buff. So potentially, depending on how you target your enemies for damage, you can get to turn 4, transform with this guy, use his active skill, and then just immediately destroy one of the enemies. So he can be a very powerful option. He, like many Broly units, though, is kind of a glass cannon. You do need to be careful. Even if he is super attacking first, you don't want to put him in front of like 4 or 5 attacks, really. But he definitely is a massive powerhouse. And like I say, on the turn where he transforms, if you use his active skill, you could quite easily take out one of the enemies. And he still gets that guaranteed additional when there's 2 or more enemies remaining. So he can just dish out tons of damage. So moving on, we have AGL Super Vegito. So with his EZA, his was not quite as crazy as some of the ones that we'd seen up until this point. But he was already a pretty busted unit before his EZA. So he does immense damage, raises allies' attack. So slot 1 is a perfect place to put him. Once you get hit once, he does get an attack and defensive buff, so yet another reason why he's good in slot 1. He foresees enemy super attack, which you've already talked about in this video as being incredibly valuable, but unfortunately it's only when HP is 40% or less. Now that is easier to achieve in Super Battle Road, but that's when your HP starts to get dangerously low. Like at 40% or less HP, you're in stray super attack can kill you territory. So seeing where they are is all well and good, but if you've got no defensive units on that turn, that is your sign that you immediately need to use some kind of item. But in terms of normal attacks, aside from maybe type disadvantage, even with no item active, he should potentially be just taking double-digit damage, and then he counters. So depending on your RNG, if you're getting off crit counters, he's going to be doing quite a lot of extra damage on top of his super attack. And then obviously he does have very good links. The only downside to him overall is that his overall defense isn't that great. His main defensive ability comes from the fact that he's reducing damage from normal attacks by 80%. So when he gets supered, he takes a lot of damage. So that is something that you do need to bear in mind. So moving on, we have Gotenks and Ghost. I think we just, if you're watching these all in order, we just talked about these guys in the youth video, but I thought I'd throw them in here. I won't go into huge amounts of detail. You guys probably know what they do by now, or can read the information up on the screen. But I will say the same thing that I said in the youth video. I think post EZA, when it comes to Super Battle Road, this guy should be an auto include on every single team. So if you still need to do some of the older stages, you got Fusions, Hybrid Saiyans, and then the new ones, we've got Youth and Super Saiyans. Personally, I think he should be on all of your teams for those runs, because he kind of does everything. He can get insanely high defense, he can stun, he heals, like he's just really, really good overall. So he is a must bring, I think, if you haven't done. Then we have High School Gohan. We mentioned him, I think, in the Goku family video. I think in that one I actually forgot to bring him up as a tab at the start for one of the top picks, which is more shame on me, because he, very much like the Gotenks and Ghost, I think is a must-use unit on every single stage that you can possibly run him on, because he does fairly reasonable damage, nothing too crazy, but has a medium chance to stun. Then he has attack and defense 58%, which isn't that high, but then he reduces damage received by 58%, which is very good. And then he gives super class allies Ki +2 and attack and defense 30%. And obviously that includes him, so that helps mitigate that 58% from his passive by making it a little bit higher. And then of course he has the damage reduction. He has really good links as well. Hero of Justice, I guess, is probably one of the ones you won't see on this team, but the rest of his links are very, very good. So he, as a unit that, even if you just want to bring him as a support unit that you float off in the third spot, you don't have to worry about a turn where there's potentially 2, 3, maybe even 4 attacks in that final slot. And in some situations, you would definitely not want to put your support unit there if that's the way the turn was looking. But this guy is going to be able to hold his own in that spot, as well as, of course, having the potential to stun the enemy as well, which is obviously very, very good for Super Battle Road. So this guy is another top pick for the team, I think. Then moving on, we have this Super Saiyan Great Saiyaman. Now, I didn't hear crazy amounts of buzz about him when he first came out on JP, because obviously he came out on the Goku banner when the Transforming Goku and Tech Vegeta came out. He's actually really good. If you're running a lot of Majin Buu Saga units, obviously he provides the super class allies from Majin Buu Saga, 2 Ki and 30% attack and defense, which is good. Obviously includes himself as well. But he gets 120% attack and defense, which is solid. High chance of sealing the attacked enemy's super attack for 2 turns, which, I mean, it's annoying that it's not guaranteed, but sealing is very, very good in Super Battle Road, so we definitely take that. And he raises attack on super, so he can hit reasonably hard as well. I actually used this guy on my own teams a few times since rainbowing him. I think I only got like 1 copy on his original banner, but then for some reason, after he went into the unfeatured pool, I just seem to pull tons of copies of him. And he's actually really good. Like, he can deal pretty decent damage and get up to having a pretty reasonable amount of defense. So even if you're not running a lot of Majin Buu Saga units on the team, I do think this guy is actually a pretty decent pick. Especially if you need to fill that final slot on the team and you have this guy, he can fit in pretty well in my opinion. So he's not a must bring, he's not a top pick, but I thought he deserved an honourable mention. Then we have the STR Gotenks. We talked about them in the youth one as well. They are very good for support because you get 40% attack and defense when facing 2 or more enemies, which again, any sort of support buffs like this in Super Battle Road are going to be really useful, as well as the fact that he does have the medium chance to stun as well, so he can be very, very good. Then we have the Super Saiyan Broly, so another extreme unit. Again, his defense is not the best. I mean, it's 100% at the start of the turn, which is good. But his main use on the team, I guess, is the fact that he basically auto supers every turn because he gives himself 6 ki, and he is an AoE unit, so he's going to hit everybody, do quite a decent amount of damage, and then of course when you get to turn 4, he transforms into the full power Broly, so he loses his AoE ability, but then has the additional attack built into his passive, which is at a high chance, 50%. And of course, if you have additionals built into him, he could super attack 3 times. 8 ki, which is more than he would ever need, and 188% attack. So once he transforms, he's going to be able to dish out a ton of damage. So as I've said in a lot of these guides, I know a lot of people don't care about trying to do no item runs or anything like that. So if you don't care about using items and you just want to get the stage done, a rotation of this guy and the Tech Broly together. Oh wait, no, you can't run them both on the same team. I was about to say they'd be really good together, but they have the same name. He's just similar to the Tech Broly in the sense that his defense is not great, but he kind of makes up for it in his damage output. So if you are going to bring him on the team, you probably are going to have to make use of some items. He has prepared for battle. He also has shocking speed, which a couple of the units will have. So he has pretty solid links overall. I'm kind of disappointed when this is kind of a throwback just to go off topic for the slight mistake that I made there. But I was a little bit disappointed when he was first revealed that they didn't call him like Broly brackets Dragon Ball Super, because you can't use him with any other Super Saiyan Brolys, which is a real shame because of how good the rotation of him and the Tech one would be. But oh well. He's a solid choice. Again, I don't think he's a top pick, but he deserves an honourable mention. Then we have the Gogeta, kind of alongside him. We talked about Gogeta, obviously, in Movie Heroes, because he's the main leader. But he has a built-in chance to dodge. He's effective against all types. He's going to be very good. Turn 5 to transform, which is definitely not impossible to see in Super Battle Road. And then once that happens, it's 50% chance to dodge, 100% chance to crit. So he's just going to be dishing out a ton of damage. The only problem is, of course, if he doesn't dodge, his defense is not that great. He will take damage, especially from supers. But the 50-50 chance to dodge whilst dishing out attacks effective against all types that are guaranteed crits is pretty good. So, yeah, Gogeta, very good pick for the team. Again, not a top pick, but definitely worth an honourable mention. And then I thought I'd include my boy Bardock as well. Mainly because he's alright when he starts off in his base form. He's still a very solid unit. You're not going to have a lot of low-class warriors on the team, so he's not going to be getting a huge amount of extra attack. But he gets attacks effective against all types when there is a Wicked Bloodline enemy. And he can transform on turn 4 or straight away when there is a Wicked Bloodline enemy. And if we look at the list for Super Saiyans, Fight 2 is against Wicked Bloodline enemies. So in Fight 2, this Bardock can actually be quite useful because you can go straight in, transform straight away, and then once he's transformed, for the first few turns he has a built-in chance to dodge, built-in chance to crit, all regardless of how you've built him in the hidden potential system. And then he launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super, and all attacks become crits when there is a Wicked Bloodline enemy. So he's potentially going to be supering multiple times, dodging, and doing tons of damage because he's critting and getting that bonus super built in. So potentially could super 3 times, all of which will be crits. Now obviously you're only fighting Wicked Bloodline enemies in Fight 2, but he is still a solid unit pre-transformation. So I do think he would be good on the team, but again he fits into that probably not a top tier pick, but definitely worth an honourable mention kind of slot. So going back to the team, obviously like I said, I didn't want to talk about units that we've already talked about multiple times, but we've got the AGL Gohan is obviously a very solid pick. Trunks is good for Super Battle Road. Gohan and Goten, not the best in SBR because they need to build up their defense, but they put out tons of damage, so they can be good. This Goku will be getting his Easy A. I think the event's going to go live the same day the event comes out, so if you want to do his Easy A first and then do the Super Battle Road stage, obviously he'll be very good for that. The LR Gogeta, pretty much on the same par with the Vegito in how good and useful he will be, but I think we talked about him in Movie Heroes, so I didn't bring up his own tab, but I didn't forget about him. This Gohan is a decent support unit. Transforming Goku is okay for Super Battle Road. He is also a 120 leader for super types. So if you don't have one of the summonable leaders, he is another option that you can run if you don't want to run a different category. Other than that, I don't think there's anyone major that we skipped over. There's a lot of units here that could be useful, but I don't think are high enough on the list. Like Gogeta doesn't have his Easy A yet, for example. Same with this Gohan. Post Easy A, he's actually pretty good. Kabe, I guess if you're bringing a lot of STR units, he could be very useful to bring. I mean, we're bringing the leader Goku, who is STR, and this Gohan, but he'll probably be floating. Goten is pretty solid. Is an orb changer, which can help out as well. Transforming Vegeta, pretty decent. Again, can be used as a sub leader. I was going to bring up Comba as an honorable mention, but you don't fight, I think, any super type enemies, do you? I guess the first fight, Piccolo and Nail will be super types, but then you fight extreme types, which means the main part of his passive is not going to be useful. But he does have a Giant 8 mode, which gives you the couple of turns of free damage, so that can be useful. This Stunner Goku that we talked about in the Movie Heroes one, he's really good for Super Battle Road because he has such a high chance to stun. And this Trunks is a good support unit if you're bringing other Vegeta family units. If you have no other Vegeta family units, then he's definitely not as good. So I think that covers everyone just off the top of my head. There's obviously a ton of units we didn't talk about. So like I said at the beginning, if you think there's a unit I should have talked about who you think will be very good on this team, let us know down below in the comments. If you have any further questions or need any more advice on team building, let us know that down below as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the link to my Discord in the description. Feel free to join in the fun over there. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.